So today we're talking about who is the number one pound for pound best in the UFC. Is that Islam? Well, drum roll. Yes. Yes, Islam is the number one pound for pound fighter in the world, even though it does not reflect so in the UFC rankings. There are two ways that you can look at the UFC pound for pound rankings. First one being the overall resume of a fighter. Second one being activity and recent wins. And where we are looking at this is going to be in regards to the recent wins. Because if you look at Islam's resume, Islam actually has quite an impressive resume recently, and he has stayed very, very active. He has just beaten Alexander Volkanovski, who at both times was the number one pound for pound fighter in the world. And if we actually look at the second fight, which we all know what happened there, a brutal head kick KO in the first round. And then the second fight was close. You can score that either way. I kind of tend to think Alexander Volkanovski won that one. But if you say that Islam was the winner of that, I don't necessarily think that could be considered wrong. Especially in the eyes of the judges who did give that to Islam, obviously. And then you put Charles Oliveira on there, Bobby Green, Dan Hooker, Drew Dober's in there, Thiago Moises, and all of those have been within 2 years of each other. So he has stayed extremely busy. About two fights from in 2023 so far, and two in 2022, and then, two in 2022, and then 3 in 2021. Islam has been one of the most active fighters in the UFC and beating quality fighters. And I mean quality fighters. Look at what Charles Oliveira has been doing to his competition. And Islam starched him. And Alexander Volkanovski, first fight, close. Second fight, not even remotely close. That was a brutal fight for Alexander Volkanovski. And who do we think is number two? Is it Jon Jones or is it Alexander Volkanovski? I don't think either one of those is wrong. Had you asked me about 3 days ago, I would have said that Jon Jones was the number one pound for pound. But because of this injury, I would say that Jon Jones is not any longer the pound-for-pound fighter. Jon Jones has been very inactive for quite some time. It's been very unfortunate how inactive that Jon Jones has been, because Jon Jones is a very fun fighter. He's frankly, in my opinion, the greatest to ever do it. And 3 days ago, that is why I would have said that he deserves to be the number one pound for pound. Combine that with his win over Cyril Gane, that's why. But the last fight he had before the Cyril Gane fight was back in 2020. So it took him 3 years to get back into shape and fight against Cyril Gane. And now he's injured. He's going to be out for probably quite a while. He's trying to get under the knife here pretty soon. It is a pectoral tear. He tore the tendon off of the pectoral bone, or he tore the tendon off of the bone that connects to the pectoral muscle. And those kind of injuries are very fluid. They can be either very short, or they can be very long. And from the way that they're talking, my guess is it's probably going to be a while. Unfortunately, we won't be able to see that Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic fight. It's very unfortunate, but because of the extreme inactivity of Jon Jones, I do think Islam deserves to be the number one pound for pound fighter. Islam has just been so dominant against his employees, has been so dominant against his competition. I just don't foresee him losing a fight for a while, and how dominant he's been. I mean, look what he did to Dan Hooker. Look at what he did. I mean, Dan Hooker and Bobby Green aren't the most quality of wins, but he beat Bobby Green with punches. It got him in a TKO. how he just demolished Dan Hooker. Yeah, and we're really starting to see an evolution in Islam striking, and I don't think we're done seeing that evolution. So I think there's a lot to be said with that regard. He's still an improving fighter. So I truly believe that Islam is the one to be the number one pound for pound fighter in the world. Going back to Jon Jones, it's horribly unfortunate that that Jon Jones is not going to be able to fight for a year. But moving on to the next topic, we're getting a hell of a banger between Sergi Pavlovich and Tom Aspinall. Man, what a fight. They've had this fight booked twice now, and it is fine. Well, I guess I shouldn't jinx it, but it does seem like that fight is actually going to be happening now. Who's going to win that fight? Man, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one, because it's hard to argue with Sergei's. Sergei is fast, he's very technical, and he obviously has a hell of a hand. His hands are insane. The power behind them is just ridiculous, and he's got a hell of a chin too. We've seen that. The one I can think of that was on display the most was against Curtis Blades. Curtis Blades landed a couple of good shots on him. You could see, it really kind of stunned him, but it was never like had him on skates or anything like that. It's just kind of woke him up a little bit. But Curtis Blades landed some good, flush, hard punches on Sergei, and he handled it just fine, ate it just fine. Tom Aspinall, good power. You can't deny the power behind Tom Aspinall, and his 1-2s, yeah, his 1-2s are insane. They're beautiful 1-2s. His leg kicks are also great. His ground game is amazing. So I see Sergei's path to victory is his normal strategy is go out there, be technical, wait for his punch to land, and then swarm him. Tom Aspinall has one big flaw, which is he holds his chin up. He has his chin exposed quite a few times. He holds his chin up in the air. And if you think that Sergei hasn't seen that and he isn't going to go for that chin that's up in the air, yeah, he is absolutely going to do that. And yeah, I think that puts Tom Aspinall in a very precarious situation, because regardless of how you train yourself to tuck your chin, you've been doing it for so long and without much threat to you that it's going to be difficult to get out of that. And you saw that same thing with Paddy against Jared Gordon. Paddy held his chin up and Jared Gordon caught him a few times. That's the other one that I can think of that likes to hold his chin up kind of high. But Tom Aspinall, if that chin gets caught by Sergei Pavlovich, I don't know how many of those he can take, because Sergei, like I said, has got some serious power behind his punches. For Tom Aspinall, he's just got to be quick. He has got to be quick. He's got to get those 1-2s rolling. He's got to be constantly moving. I think if you look at some of the things that Cyril Gane has done against heavy hitters like Francis Ngannou, which I realize he didn't win that fight, but the way he moves and kind of, I don't know that runaway is necessarily the correct term, but it's hard to argue that he didn't run away. But yeah, if you throw some good punches and you turn around and run back and reset, it's going to be hard to, which Tom Aspinall is very capable of doing. It'll be very hard for Sergei, who is a little bit slower, to keep up with that. And his biggest path to victory is his ground game. He has great takedowns. He has great jiu-jitsu. I think if Tom Aspinall can get it to the ground, I think Tom Aspinall can win. But big but here. We have not seen Sergei Pavlovich's ground game. And from my understanding, coming from Sergei and from DC, he has really good ground game. Really good ground game. So we can't rule out Sergei being able to handle Tom Aspinall on the ground. But with that being said, I do kind of tend to think that Tom Aspinall will be fine. So, you know, I think the UFC once again has done a great job with rebooking fights. You know, they've definitely had some challenges over the past month with what happened in UFC 294 and what's now happening in 295. I think the UFC has really kind of stepped up their game in being able to find replacement fights. I would tip my hat to them and say that they've done a great job. I cannot wait to see UFC 295. The Yuri and Alex Pereira fight is going to be a banger. It is going to be awesome. And then Sergei versus Tom Aspinall is going to be a banger. I genuinely cannot wait for those fights to happen. So with that being said, my name is James. This is MMA New Guy. So with that being said, my name is James, and this is New Guy MMA. And guys, if you really like this video and you want to help support the channel, hit that like button, smash the subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. It takes quite a bit of effort to make these videos. So any kind of help and support that you can give me would be greatly appreciated. So in the future, I cannot wait to see all of you, and I cannot wait to grow this channel, and I cannot wait to share my MMA growth with all of you. So until next time, have a good day.